talk about suicide. A couple nights ago, I made an analogy, apparently, on Facebook, which was pretty good. I don't really remember. I was drinking that night quite a bit, but somebody was talking about the dirty deed, suicide. And the analogy itself was that relating to a car. And so before I go on any further, suicide is fucking normal, man. The thought of it is normal. The thought of it is supposed to be there. Everyone goes through it. But what's wrong is when people go through with it. All right. So your body is always telling you something's wrong or that it needs something. If you go a couple days without sleep or eating or drinking water, you're gonna feel it. Your stomach's gonna rumble. Your lips are gonna chap up. You're gonna start, falling asleep behind the wheel or walking, whatever it is you do. And that's just your body telling you, hey, you're tired, you're hungry, you're thirsty. The same way how if you're coming in a bad situation and you get scared, is your body telling you, hey, this is probably a good time to take precaution, right? Or it's a survival instinct. And depression and suicidal thoughts, they're the same thing. That's just that I put it as that's your check engine light, man. All right, that is the check engine light. So if you're thirsty, right, and you're driving around a car and your car is low on oil, you can always check it. There's always ways to find out before it even pops up. Depending if you drive an older car, you might be able to hear it sometimes, depending on how much of a bucket you got. But you gotta take care of your bucket regardless, By the time your check engine light comes on, there's gonna be some maintenance that needs to be done. And if you keep driving that car around with that check engine light on, your engine block is gonna seize up, and that car is, it's done. It's over. Yeah, you can go replace the engine or whatever, but there's that engine block is done already. All right, and that's the analogy I put for suicide. It's like if you're having suicidal thoughts and you're depressed, something's fucking wrong. All right, and if you keep driving that car without doing the maintenance, your engine block is going to seize up. It's as simple as that. A lot of people, when they get depressed and get suicidal thoughts, a lot of it also pertains to our social media. You see a lot of people talking about it and being open about it. And so we think it's normal to do that too, except you're not actually getting any help for it. So now, not only are you depressed and having suicidal thoughts, but now you're putting it out there and you're reminding yourself and you're consistently putting yourself in that state of mind of whatever point you were sad, right? So for example, if I hit my toe this morning or I hit my car or whatever, and later on in the day I'm at work and I remember, I hit my car, I'm probably gonna feel not the same, but just as upset as I did hours earlier. So if you had a suicidal thought before, time passes and you go back and you revisit it, you're probably going to be just as depressed and pretty close to being sad as you were during that time. And except you're not getting any help. And with you being more verbal about it, more open about it, without getting help, you're consistently putting yourself down. Now, a lot of people don't like to seek out help because who needs therapy, right? So if there's an issue going on with me and I'm thinking about, I'm married, I need to put time with my wife, I gotta make sure I raise my kids right, I've got a mortgage I have to pay, am I gonna get enough hours, what am I doing with my life, are things that I can do, I need time for myself, right, so I'm not focused on that and I can actually, relieve myself or whatever, just have some fun. You start thinking about all these things and they just start popping up. If you go to a therapist, they're gonna ask you what's wrong, you're gonna list these things, right, you're still gonna be cluttered, and then they're gonna ask you about one thing in specific, right? So it's like, imagine a bunch of trains coming onto one rail system at the same time, right? In through one tunnel. They're all gonna crash, or they're gonna have to take their time. It's gonna take a long time for all the trains to get through. Instead of just doing one at a time, focusing on one issue at a time, getting out of the way. Next thing you know, you're gonna be fucking good. Especially when it comes to seeing a therapist for issues with someone else, whether that be, a sibling, a coworker. Well, I don't think people see coworkers for that. But like if you're married, right? If you and your spouse or whoever, whoever you're with is having problems, and you're having problems, so you figure, well, the issue's between me and her, we can resolve this right here, right now. It's not going to happen, because everyone has their not ego, right? So, and everyone wants to be a narcissist at that point when people start bringing up issues. And if one person, is willing to admit they're wrong, the other person, it might be just as hard, because having to admit is really hard step for anyone. So if you go see a therapist, they can actually hear themselves fail, right? So if you have issues with someone and they're being a narcissist and you go see a therapist, they can hear the professional, right, that they think they're going to be all cocky about. And obviously, you might be doing some things wrong too, but whatever's affecting you, they're going to hear themselves, they're going to hear the therapist's reply, and they're going to be like, oh man, my ego was up here and that's slowly diminishing. And then that's how you can start forming those bonds. And those particularly are the reasons what people get, what happens to people for them to go into depression and anxiety and whatnot. So I just wanted to cover that real quick. So if your check engine light is on, do the fucking maintenance. Don't keep driving that car. All right? You gotta do something about it, man. All right?